Welcome to Mark's Motivational Podcast, another Authors Tuesday. So today I'm delighted to be joined by another great author, Todd Feltman. So in education. He's a teacher in New York, and I'm really looking forward to he's published two books, self-published two books on education, and in elementary and middle school, and he's got a really good story. So I'm really looking forward to talking to Todd today. Thanks a lot for joining me on the show, Todd.
Yes, I'm delighted to be on with you today, Mark.
Yeah, no, it's great, very great to welcome you along. And we might just start off the podcast. If you wouldn't mind telling the listeners a little bit about yourself and your how you began as a writer, would be a great place to start. An author.
Definitely. So, first of all, I'm delighted to be on today. And I've been an educator now for over 26 years, mainly in elementary education, with some years in middle school education. The reason I became an author is because I felt there was a need to get the message out that students can become powerful navigators of success if they're provided with the right strategies. Students can take charge of their education. I became a writer because I felt there was this need that was missing in schools. Students get support from parents, educators, staff, and school administrators, but it's very busy within school and it's very busy within home life. And it's really important that students have the tricks of the trade from when they get up in the morning until they go to sleep at night in order to navigate school success. So I decided to put these important information into a book. And I was very excited to write this book because I knew that it was an important message, and I knew that students, parents, and educators would learn a lot from my book, and essentially students would be able to take charge of their education. So here I am, an educator, but I'm also a writer of books.
Yeah, that's great because and how have you found being an author so far? Did it work from being in education? Is that what streamlined you to give the idea of becoming an author, a successful author?
Yes, definitely. So I'm fortunate, as I mentioned, I've worked in elementary and middle schools
Yeah.
as a classroom teacher, a specialty teacher, a literacy coach, a mentor teacher, and even a intensive reading interventionist, as well as an assistant principal. I also am an adjunct assistant professor at Hunter College, and I teach educational courses to pre-service teachers. So this combination of being able to teach elementary and middle school students and also teach graduate students gave me this push to become a writer. And I found with writing this book that I did some of my writing on the commute to work. I found it was great to carry a notebook and a pen. It didn't have to be the same color, depending on my mood for the particular day. And I would sit down and I would start to draft out these strategies. And then I would also, as I was writing, I would think of the why, because children are constantly asking why. And it's really important that they get an explicit why. So for each strategy, whether it was if you're having a bad day, inform your teacher at the beginning of the day. And the why is because essentially it will help you have a better day, and it gets it out of your brain. You're taking ownership of your learning and saying that something's bothering you. So I really enjoyed doing that writing each day by just using pencil and paper. And then as I finalized my writing, I would type it up on the computer, obviously, and I would organize it accordingly. So my latest book, Transforming into a Powerful Third, Fourth, or Fifth Grade Navigator of School Success, has multiple chapters. And it begins with what students can do essentially when they get up in the morning, and it goes throughout the school day, and it ends up what they can do at night to be successful. So it required, first of all, brainstorming of the strategies. It also required looking at research and determining what I'm providing is accurate and on point. I also had to consider the language I was using, because This book is geared for 8, 9, and 10-year-olds, as well as educators and parents. I needed to think about how I would group the strategies based on the topic. I also had to consider where I would include helpful hints to make sure the strategy came alive for the students.
Right, that's absolutely great. Yeah, because it was kind of leading on nicely to the next question about your books. Like, it's a handbook at navigating success. So that's your is that your first book or your latest book, Todd?
This is my latest book, which was
Okay,
published by SchoolRubric, and
right.
this interactive handbook is
Mm,
like a workbook because
yeah,
students have an opportunity to read the book, but
right.
then there's
Yeah.
opportunity for them to read each strategy and then draw out the
Wow.
strategy and also write helpful notes. So it becomes ingrained in their brain. They internalize these strategies.
Yeah, yeah, right. And did you do the illustrations yourself, Todd?
No, the illustrations, that's a very interesting story. So the illustrations, the cover illustration is done by an art teacher who I worked with over 20 years ago. Her and I stayed in touch, and I was very impressed with her.
Really good. Yeah.
So I had decided on two key characters in this book. So this book is informational, but it's also a narrative. So the pencil shown here is powerful pencil, and the stapler is successful stapler. So
Lovely.
these two characters appear throughout the book, and the book, each chapter begins with a narrative and ends with a narrative. So it tells the story of powerful pencil and successful stapler. This here is the compass, and this is helping students navigate school success. The illustrations, the interior illustrations, which I didn't put color on for them, it's an opportunity for children to do their own coloring, was
Right.
done by an illustrator in India. So myself and the illustrator would communicate. It actually wasn't myself and the illustrator. I would communicate with the illustrator coordinator, and this was all done through technology. And each of the illustrations in here really help the reader understand the text and gives them an opportunity to color in the pictures, as I mentioned,
Brilliant.
and just use these illustrations to help them take charge of their school success.
Wow. Yeah. Because what looks to me is there's a lot of element of fun involved in your books, Todd. Like, because you know, because it's not just reading; it's getting involved in your success. That's a brilliant thing for any student for learning.
Yes, I
Yeah,
wanted
yeah,
to thank you for mentioning that. I really wanted it to be interactive,
yeah,
so students weren't just reading, but they
yeah.
were applying what they read, and then they can use this handbook on a daily basis. They can review it, they can look at their illustrations, they can reread. So I agree with you tremendously.
Yeah, that's great. And would you mind just reading maybe the information on the back for people if you like, Todd, please?
Yes, I'd be delighted.
Yeah.
Would you like to transform into a powerful navigator of school success? If your answer is yes, you are ready to begin this exciting journey. You will meet two friendly guides, Powerful Pencil and Successful Stapler, who are also best friends and classmates. This handbook is packed with 100 easy to follow strategies. It will fully support you with what you can do at home and how to perform in the classroom. Investigate how to be prepared and organized, develop positive relationships with your teachers, be responsible and helpful, learn successfully, enjoy school. By following Dr. Feltman's strategies included in this book, you should become a successful student. Now is the time to begin reading and transforming into a powerful navigator of school success. Have fun.
Brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Well done, Todd. That's really, really good. That's great.
Yes,
And where is that available to in Amazon now to
yes. It's
download?
available on Amazon. It's perfect to get the book now
Yeah,
in advance of the upcoming school year.
yeah.
I just want to read this top
Brilliant.
part
Yeah,
right here.
please. Yeah,
This is an acknowledgement by a former literacy coach and her son. I worked with this literacy coach last year. Dr. Todd's easy to follow steps, student friendly language, and engaging characters will support third, fourth, and fifth grade students as they navigate and overcome the challenges they face.
Wow, that's great. That's great. That's great acknowledgement to get. Absolutely great
Thank
acknowledgement.
you.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thank you.
Uh,
It was a pleasure collaborating with her.
yeah, absolutely brilliant. And you say third, fourth, and fifth grade, is it, Todd? So just trying to think, like for us in Europe, that would that be like maybe third class, maybe, or fifth or sixth class? Would it be?
Yes, something
Yeah,
like that. Yes. The
yeah,
reason
yeah,
I picked these grades, and it's basically we can think of students who are like somewhere between 8 and 11 years old.
yeah.
The reason I chose these grades is because these students are getting these students are getting ready for middle school and for the next grades after elementary school. And I wanted them to be fully prepared and really being able to take charge of their education beginning in elementary school, in upper elementary school, 8, 9, 10, 11-year olds, and then moving on when they become 12 years old so that they can take charge. And what's important about this book is the each strategy, there's not a lot to read. So it's a quick read. Students have a chance to digest it and move it forward. So in my writing style, I was really strategic about that. I didn't want them to have to spend a long time reading. I wanted to be quick and to the point.
Yeah, and you certainly are. That's great, and I love the concept of the of the stapler and the pencil. That's absolutely brilliant. Well done.
Thank you so
Right, yeah.
much.
And your other books as well, Todd. You've done two other books you're going to share on the screen as well, please.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
So I'm going to share the first book I wrote, which was one of the books that I self-published,
right.
was called The Elementary and Middle School Student-Friendly Handbook to Navigating Success. You need to take charge of your education. It also has the compass. It has multiple strategies to help students take charge of their education from when they wake up in the morning until they go to sleep at night. It's action packed and it's also an interactive handbook.
Brilliant.
And it's also available on Amazon.
Right. And was
And then
that your first book? Was it? Was that your first book, Todd?
that
Yeah,
was my
yeah,
first book. And
yeah.
then my second book um, is called Mentoring mentoring my elementary and middle school students to become powerful navigators of success, an interactive handbook for teachers and students in grades 2 to 8. I chose the composition book theme because it connects to school. The powerful pencil has the cape to represent being like a superhero. This book also goes into the elements of school and home life in order for students to be successful. These two books helped me get to this third book, which I presented, which was published by SchoolRubric. Both of these books took a while to write just as well, but I was very pleased with them and I was happy not just to write them, but I was able to use them with students and educators and really get their input on them.
Well, that's great. And I absolutely love the illustrations are amazing on them. Like really great ideas. Really, really brilliant. And was the same illustrator again, Todd? Was it that done your two other
No,
books?
no, thank you. The two covers were done by CreateSpace at Amazon.
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
there were no illustrations within the first and second self-published book. So I was really the illustrations are really important. So I was really delighted with this third book, which I'll hold up again, to be able to get an illustrator both for the cover and the inside to in order to make the book come to life.
Great. That's absolutely amazing. Yeah. Great stuff. Great stuff. And you said you've got a publisher for that book, the third book, have you, Todd? That's published.
Yes.
The publisher. Yeah. Great stuff. Great stuff.
Publisher is SchoolRubric, and what was wonderful about this publisher is he and his team walked me through the editing process. They gave me very helpful feedback. I had to do revising and editing, but it really became solid. It was a push for me, a challenge for me with writing this book was the narrative piece because I don't feel like I'm that strong with narrative writing, but the publisher really pushed me that just having the 100 strategies was not enough. So I really had to dig deep into my brain and really come up with these two characters and create a setting and scenario for them. And I even got, um, to better myself as a writer, I actually tested this book with children, 8 and 9 year olds and 10-year-olds too. And I asked directly for their feedback on the illustrations, but and also my writing, because I really wanted it to be kid friendly and really easy to understand. So I'm really glad that I included these narratives. It was definitely a push for me, but nothing in life is easy. So we got to just keep working at it. But I'm really excited with these narratives, and I have fun reading them aloud when I read them.
Yes, you certainly should, because it's an amazing work, and it's great that you're bringing the children into it as well. It's kind of encouraging them to you know, as they're giving you feedback, it's helping them to learn as well. So that's absolutely brilliant. It's win-win.
Yes, and
Yeah,
they were really excited in the
yeah,
process, and they actually, with the illustrations, found things that I didn't notice and that
right.
adults didn't notice, and I was so appreciative. And I also let them know that writing is not easy. I have my doctorate in urban education from the CUNY Graduate Center, and my dissertation topic was the gender achievement gap in reading and writing of fourth and fifth grade boys versus girls, and how we can support bullies, not bullies, I'm sorry, boys fully. Um, so when I was writing this dissertation, I had to really learn how to do academic writing. And even though I was very successful with my multiple master's degrees, it was a big challenge. And I want children and adults out there to know that if you want to write a book, even if you're not a great writer, you just got to pursue it. You got to write a little bit each day. You got to be disciplined. You got to be willing to revise and edit. But once you finish, you're going to be proud of yourself, not just for having a book, but also just for going through the writing process and becoming a stronger writer.
Great. That's great, Todd. That's great advice for anybody that's listening. That's really, really helpful. Thanks so much for that. And you kind of touched on this already about the types of strategies you did, Todd, when you're writing. But if you could highlight maybe one or two main strategy you use when you're writing, like you did speak about being consistent is so important. But like maybe you could pinpoint maybe one or two things that you use for a strategy for your writing, please.
Yes, definitely. So, a strategy that I used was using a graphic organizer or an outline. So, to begin with, I wanted to outline the chapters I was going to have and the different topics for the strategies, and that kept me online. Another strategy I use is like being cognizant of how many words I use in a sentence, because less is more. Sometimes I write too detailed sentences, TOO, detailed sentences. Like, so I wanted to make sure that I wrote less words in the sentence, so I would count the words as I was writing them. Another strategy that's really important, which I didn't learn till I was doing my doctorate, which I use for the book too, is reading the work you're writing out loud. Too often we proofread our writing, just reading it silently. But when you read it out loud, and I encourage my students to do this too, you hear your writer's voice, but you also catch any errors, or you find words that maybe you could change. So I highly recommend, and I do this even though it takes time and is exhausting, to read each page, to look to see how you can make it your best.
Yeah, that's a great strategy. Yeah. And yeah, and would you kind of when you're writing your books there, your third book, did you write a certain amount of words a day, or is that the way you would have done it, Todd?
Yeah, so basically, there was about 110 strategies to begin with when I started, right when I was writing this, and I wanted to condense it to 100. I would try to do like write 2 to 3 strategies a day.
Okay,
And that may not seem like a lot, but it does take time, because you have to obviously think of the strategies, and I have to write the strategy out. I have to give the why if there's a helpful hint. So that was like, then I had an end in sight. So if I like wrote 2 or 3 strategies a day, maybe like in about 50 days, the draft of the book could be done. But I was very disciplined, even on days that maybe I was on my commute and I was a little tired or not really in the mood. I had to push myself. And I'm really pleased I did. I don't think I missed a day of writing. And I think that's important for writers, like scheduling in your day where there's minimal to no interruptions and you can really sit down and get it done. And as you mentioned, which is so on point, Mark, set yourself a goal like how much you're going to write each day and really try to do it. If you can't do it a certain day, think about what prevented you and try to make it up the next day. But ideally, it's good to get your goal done each day.
Yeah, that's a great idea because even what I'm hearing what you're saying there, Todd, is even if you're not in the humor for doing it, if you're not in the mood for writing, even by doing 2 minutes or a short passage, you're still getting towards what you want to do.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, and it's so important because then you'll eventually get it done.
yeah.
You have to be persistent. You can use a calendar. You can schedule when just like you're busy during the day, you can schedule when it's going to be writing time, and you should really stick to that schedule, whether it's on your commute or it's early in the morning or late at night. But you have to think about when your body and mind is at its best moments to do the writing.
Right. And did you ever kind of hit a kind of a metaphorical wall when you're writing? Like, did that ever happen to you, Todd? Like, where you kind of hit writer's block, and how would you have dealt with that?
Yeah, so I found getting writing the strategies was pretty straightforward. I concentrated my word count. The why was harder. And then I would
Okay.
hit a wall sometimes because here I'd have the strategy. Um, it's important to complete your homework as soon as you get home. And then I would have to come up with a why. And obviously the reason is so you can be prepared for the next day and you can get good grades and so forth. But I had to really think of the why to make sure that it would appeal to students and that it would be really explicit and it wouldn't be like badgering them. Like it would be just like straightforward, something that they could put in their mind and internalize. So there were several strategies where I faced that wall, just like runners do in the New York City Marathon after like mile 20 in the Bronx.
Yeah.
I had to face that wall, and I thankfully overcame that wall. So my suggestion is when you hit a wall in your writing, it's good to get a drink of water, take a little break from the writing, take a little walk around wherever you live, maybe go for a walk outside and come back to it. And even when you're outside walking, after you clear your brain, start thinking about what would be make sense to you and like talk it out. That's good, even if you're talking to yourself.
Right. No, that's great advice. Thanks so much for that, Todd. It's really makes so much sense what you're saying there, like taking a break from the thing because people study and study and then they don't get a break and it doesn't stay in their mind there. So that's really, really helpful. Thanks so much for that.
You're
Right,
welcome.
right. And yeah, that's great. So, what ways have you found the best ways for kind of marketing your book and promoting your book? What ways have you found the best way for that, Todd?
Okay, so marketing my book, I've used social media to market the book. I've used Facebook and Instagram, and I put it on Twitter and LinkedIn. That was a way. I think word of mouth was very important. I also spoke to heads of school and principals at schools. I also um, have it available on Donors Choose, which is a nonprofit organization that grants wishes for teachers, and it's paid for through a grant. So that's a way. I also mentioned to colleges and universities that pre-service teachers can use it. I'm I'm thinking about at some point getting a publicist who can really promote the book. I've also I've done a couple podcasts, and once again I'm really happy to be doing it on with you today, this podcast. But it's really about getting it out there. I like to talk to people, when I'm at conferences, I mention it. When I'm doing educational presentations, I mention it. And it's just really about getting the message out there. I think reviews help. I have a couple reviews on Amazon. I'm looking to get more reviews. I'm hoping to possibly get on TV or radio at some point to really promote the book. But I think it takes time.
Mhm.
But I'm determined with this year to really hit the back to school market in different ways to get it out there. I definitely want to do some book talks in bookstores and so on and so forth.
Right, and do you have any of your books, Todd, in any of the bookstores at the moment, in your local area?
I don't unfortunately have them, but the book should soon be in Barnes and Noble.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
working on that, and I'm also working on a couple other bookstores. It's been a little bit slow, but I'm hoping really to get the book out there. I'm also thinking about um, there's a company called Budsies where thinking about creating a stuffed animal version of Powerful Pencil and Successful Stapler that I can
Yeah.
bring along to my
Right.
book talks and use it in media. And maybe people want to purchase it, but I'm thinking about that. And I'm just collaborating a lot with people and just getting the message out.
Mhm. Yeah, that's great. And how about libraries? Have you approached libraries yourself, Todd? Is that something you're looking at?
Repeat again, please.
Have you approached any libraries? Libraries?
Yes, yes, I'm been reaching into libraries. One library plans to have the book. The book also, I'm gonna contact the American Library Association and send it there because I want it to be in libraries. The book is also available digitally on on Kindle, so that's a great way to access it too.
Right, that's brilliant. Now, the best of luck because, like, just for people that are listening and watching that in your local area, just places so they can find your book. So make sure everybody check out Todd's work. It's absolutely brilliant. Great stuff. And can I just
Thank you.
ask you as well? I know your third book is a huge success. Like, and it looks really really well done. And I love the concept of all the work that the children have to do in the workbook as well. It's brilliant. So can I ask you what's your yeah, great stuff, yeah. And your main your one of your biggest successes going forward that's happened so far with your writing. If you were maybe to mention one or two things that really stand out for you that you're really proud of with your writing.
Yes, so as I mentioned, even though it was a challenge, the narrative writing piece for this at each chapter begins and ends with a narrative make me makes me very excited
Yeah,
because it's a way to hook the children into reading. Can I just read one page?
of course you can. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks so much. Yeah.
Okay, great. So this comes from chapter 2. I can successfully develop positive relationships with my teachers. And the name of this story is called A Brief, Powerful Story. So at morning arrival in the schoolyard, successful stapler confidently says, I hope my teachers get to know and like me. This is very important. Otherwise, it will be a long school year. Then Powerful Pencil arrives holding a red Macintosh apple. He energetically says that creating positive relationships with teachers is amazing. The third grade students give high fives to Powerful Pencil and Successful Stapler. The smile on their faces are priceless. The enthusiastic students are ready to read the strategies from this chapter. They yell, we can't wait to tell our teachers about our interests, hobbies, and dreams. So, the reason I chose this narrative to read right now is because it's about building relationships with teachers. And I think students, when they come into school, they want to make sure the teacher likes them. The teacher doesn't like them, it's going to be hard for them to be successful. So, getting back to your original question, I'm really pleased with this narrative because not only is it engaging, but I've also used some sophisticated language just to hopefully help the students who read this when they're doing their writing, and just to help them make their writing come alive.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow. Great stuff. Yeah. No, brilliant. Because it's a great lesson that you're giving children, like, even when they leave school and they're going to college and get to work, it's good. It's a great message you're giving children going forward in their life.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because am I right in suggesting that, like, for just say when they start work, it's good to get on with people and
Yes,
yeah, yeah, like definitely,
yes,
yeah. So it's good. It's a great message.
right. Building positive relationships begins at an early age, and
Yeah, yeah,
we all know that we sometimes have teachers we don't like, we have
mm,
work with people we don't like, but we're all human beings, and we need people need to be treated with respect and kindness. And if we don't like somebody, we need to figure out how we can still work with them or learn from them.
yeah. Or seeing things from their point of view as well.
Yes, thank you
Yeah,
for that. Yes, being
yeah,
open-ended and
yeah.
understanding where they're coming from.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. Great message. Thanks so much for that. Really, really good. And like when you published your first book, that must have been a huge success for you. Like having your first physical book.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, it was so exciting to publish it and see it in print and hold it and
yeah,
feel it, because it was a dream of mine,
yeah.
to have a published book.
Hmm.
My mom has several published books, and it was just something that was really important to me. And I was
Yeah,
able, what was really important was able to write the book and still balance my life, still balance my teaching,
yeah,
elementary and middle school, still teach at the graduate level, do my doctoral work. Um, that actually I began this. The books began after my doctoral work, but the idea was germinating while I was doing it. And
yeah.
another interesting piece I'll just share with the book that connects to the writing too is that originally I was going to write this book just geared for boys, because I really feel that our boys are suffering in the our boys are suffering in the classroom. They don't want to be in the classroom. There's educators, even though they try hard and they create collaborative learning and respectful learning environments, they they need to understand the needs of boys more. So I really, as I was writing this, I always had boys in the background, because I know obviously I was a boy going to school and I know what it was like. I was very fortunate, but I also know we need to do more for our boys. We're losing too many boys in education.
Yeah. All great stuff. Yeah. No. And can I just can I just get back to a really good point you made earlier on as well? About reading your book out loud is a really good way, good strategy you have there as well, isn't it? Like, to read to see how it sounds as you're writing it.
Yes, I want to, yeah, that's it's so important to just read it out loud
Mm,
multiple times and just see what what sounds right and what you could change to make it even stronger.
yeah, great. That's great, Todd. Thanks so much for that. And I suppose you've kind of answered this a few times, kind of, but I just wanted to ask you, being a teacher for 25 years, I suppose you've got a lot of inspiration from the students you've taught. Would you like to talk about that for a moment, a few minutes, for a minute or two,
Yes.
please?
So I've been very fortunate during my 25 plus years of teaching. I built some solid, positive relationships with the students.
Hmm.
They inspire me each and every day.
Yeah,
I get to know them as individuals. I get to see their hidden talents. For example, one student I had many years ago when I was working on my dissertation, um, he he started talking about baseball, and I was able to connect baseball to the importance of following your joy in life. I was able to connect that. These strategies are based on my time working with students and observing students, especially if I'm having a bad day, let the teacher know. Um, Also about the role in bullying. If you're a bystander, obviously you don't want to just stay quiet. You want to let an adult know. So these relationships with students I had really made me a better made me a better educator and
Yeah.
brought a lot of a joy to my experience. And my book is dedicated to my students and teachers that I've worked with because they give me the motivation to do this work, and I'm very thankful for them and being able to unpack their talents,
Mm,
not just the reading, writing, math, science, and social studies, but
mm.
just seeing their talents. One particular student, um, I remember we had this special series of cooking classes, and he ended up liking spicy food, so he was nicknamed Mr. Spicy.
Yeah.
So I love the conversations I have with students, and they give me ideas for future endeavors in my life.
Yeah, well, that's great because it's so important. Like as you said there about encouraging the students finding stuff they're talented in, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's so
yeah,
important encouraging them and
yeah,
greeting them each day and finding out what they what they think of, asking them for feedback in terms of your teaching and just connecting them about their life outside of school. They have a life outside of school that sometimes the two become separated, and it's important that they're able to fuse together for the
yeah.
most
No,
success.
definitely, definitely. And one thing that strikes me as well, it's great that you're going into your students and you're saying, "What do you think of this book?" Like, could you imagine when you were a kid in school and your teacher asking you that? It's like, "Oh, ask my
Yes.
opinion." So that's
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. I love that. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So that's brilliant. So I might just ask you as well, what's next for yourself in your writing? Is there anything you'd like to share with the people who are watching and listening on YouTube as well? Anything you'd like to share that's on the horizon for yourself?
Yes. So I'm currently working in an article. Actually, it's a chapter for a book on the boy boyhood decline in education. So that will be published by next October. So I'm working on this chapter, which incorporates the reasons that boys are being held back in the classroom and not being successful, not held back literally like staying in second grade for another year, but what's preventing them from being online, being aligned with girlhood achievement. I'm also thinking about creating a, I have a website, but I'm thinking about creating some sort of like interactive chat where students could pose questions about navigating school success, and it would be a dialogue, and I would be able to give them written feedback or oral feedback in order for them to take charge of their education. I think it's important. Obviously, children have their parents, they have family members, they have their friends, they have their educators, but I think having like a sounding board where they could um, email a particular question and they would get some sort of written response, written suggestion that they could use on a daily basis or whenever they need it to take charge of their education and feel more empowered.
That's great. That sounds like a great idea. And that's something you're looking at doing in the next near future.
Yes, I'm looking in the near future to do that. Also, I'm considering doing a teacher handbook to navigating school success, like helping teachers um, take charge of their work and be successful, basically like tricks of the trade for teaching in order to help them move along the continuum and find more joy and success in the classroom.
That's absolutely great. You know, the very best of luck with everything you do. It's amazing work you do. Todd, it's a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank
And
you.
can I just ask you before we go, have you any kind of readings coming up for in libraries, something like that you'd like to tell people that live in your locality?
Um, Currently, I don't have any readings right now, but I'm more than willing to come either virtually or in person to do some readings. It can be targeted to the needs of the school. I've done readings before. I also have a workshop that I recently did at an independent school in New York City that was well received, and it was about the writing of my book, the successes and challenges, and also helping students take charge of their education. So it was an interactive workshop that I'd be happy to do. I'm always interested in doing book signings, and my key takeaway from publishing this book is just to get it into the hands of as many 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year olds, teachers, parents, staff, in order to help our students be at our best and be the best students and future citizens.
That's great, Todd. Yeah, and like bravo to all the great work you're doing, and I wish you all the success going forward with everything you do.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
yeah. So that was Todd Feltman, everybody, and make sure you check out all Todd's work. It's all on Amazon, Amazon, and watch out on Barnes and Noble as well. And I'll be sharing all your links on the show notes, so make sure you check out them as well. So thanks again, Todd, for everything, for coming on the podcast and sharing all your great work.
Thank you, Mark. It was such a pleasure speaking with you. I really enjoyed this experience.
Thank you so much. So thanks everybody for tuning to Mark's motivational podcast, Another Authors Tuesday. So join us again for the next podcast next Tuesday. Till then, take good care of yourselves. Thank you. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, Mark here. Thank you for watching another episode of my Authors Tuesday podcast. I recently published a book of children's stories called The Adventures of Larry Lamppost and Friends. The book began life as bedtime stories I wrote for my own children. If you'd like to purchase my book, follow the link in the description box below. By buying my book, you are also supporting my podcast series for authors, which is giving a voice to writers in Ireland and across the world.